that up again, because that's something about knowing about yourself, how you can operate. You know, on that chart that I posted, it's got at the center love of life, and then it's got, let's say, a second. If that is in the center, around it, they've got the foundational things. So there's 4 categories. They've got environment, they've got health, I think they've got mental as well, and physical, or relationships or something like that. But in each of the 4 main categories, they break it down into foundational things that you can do to improve, or to that contribute to how well you feel in that area. And then they have advanced things that they have. So if you look at the one for, I forgot the name of it, I think maybe it was mental or whatever it was.
It says mind care.
Mind care. Yeah. One of the foundational ones is journaling. But if you look at journaling as something that you're not familiar with, or something you don't vibe with as well, of course you still give it a shot, right, to see if it works. But if you know that voice memo or a video works better, damn, go with the video. Like kind of what we're going to branch into a little bit.
Yeah. So we were just saying just before we started that we want to start doing very short 15 to 20 minute episodes weekly, just individually, and just going to act as almost like a public journaling. And just because we were talking, for me personally, writing down journaling hasn't really stuck to me very well. I do it for dreams, but in everyday writing, I'm not consistent enough with it. But I like the act of voice memos. I have a lot of them that are just banked up, but I may as well just put it out on a podcast, sort of hit 2 birds with 1 stone, and just get a bit more comfortable on the camera, I guess, as well.
Nice. Bro, you know what else I like about that? For me, I like to have that as player 1, because recording a few of those things, I don't know really what the length of the videos I'll put out, but I know for sure I will want to talk about some things, and it's a good avenue for us to go down.
Yeah.
And we can play around with shorter clips as well. We can play around with shorter clips and improve the quality. You know, there's less to work with as opposed to a long episode. So it'll be valuable. But I particularly like the fact that it's a little bit separate from the King Kakembo profile. Not that it's anything I don't want, but I like the separation. I like the distinction. If, you know, I can go to the Play One podcast and see these thoughts, similar to how I can go back into my journal and see where I was at certain times, whereas the other one is just for fighting.
Yeah, that's a good point.
It's
like a public journal, a shared public journal. It's so cool.
Yeah. I hope this is
charging good. And even with those short episodes, like we were saying before, there's probably going to be a lot of times where we both sort of get in this habit where we dive into a topic. I'm real guilty of it. I'll just go absolutely balls deep into whatever it is. I just get excited. And it's sort of all I read about and think about and talk about for like a few weeks. And I don't like to chew people's ears off too much, because I know I'll get carried away and I turn into a bad listener, or I'm just word vomiting over someone that probably doesn't give a fuck the same way that I do about it. So it'd be a good way to sort of just get it out of my system every week instead of chewing someone's ear off.
Man, so incredibly valuable. But let's take it back, right? So it's been a minute. Even between us, we're always in contact in some way, somehow, with our stock standard 6-day minimum reply time. With us, it's either straight away or it's like 4 days minimum.
Yeah, I know.
But we're in contact either way, but we haven't really caught up properly and sat down. We've been in contact because of business ventures and because of other things. But yeah, it's been a minute since we've actually had an episode, which is actually one of the reasons, or an episode for us, is us catching up.
Yeah.
Pretty deep way. So it's been a minute. What's been going on? How are you? What's happening?
Good. Feel good. Damn, I can't even remember the last time we have done this, to be honest, or what we talked about last time. But yeah, obviously we've both been pretty busy with a lot of things. Training heaps, supposed to have a fight coming up, like your story, the same sort of thing, cancel after cancel, still training away. Hopefully April 9th, that's what we're looking at under Ultimate. So it'll be K1 rules. So that'll be my first fight back. first K1 fight, first fight southpaw after my surgery. So I feel good. We went down there for sparring the other day and perfect. I feel very natural and very comfortable southpaw now. So honestly, I just want to get it done. I feel almost no nerves, which is the first, like very close to no nerves. Just, I think sometimes I get G'd up and I know that it's excitement because I'm like, damn, it's been so long. And I just feel comfortable. Like we've got the ring at Limitless now. So there's no, I don't feel any ring rust. Like I feel that we have no ring for forever. We never had a ring training, you know what I mean? And now we have one and it's it's such an obvious thing, but it just feels good. And it's a small one. It's like a little Mexican ring. So you get used to having someone in your face. There's nowhere to run. You've got to deal with it. And we do like a lot of specific rounds now where we sort of weren't doing that. Like we have days where me and Jesse will just beat the shit out of each other. But then there's days when it's like, just pull it back, keep it technical, get used to getting hit, how are you defending, what's your combos, and all the basic shit that everyone knows about, but I guarantee not a lot of people will pay much attention to. So I feel good. Yeah, honestly, the jab. Keeping it as simple as that. Do a whole round where you can only jab. You'll find it. You'll make it land. But yeah, we've been doing a lot of that. The other thing is that I'll probably do on a solo episode is investing. It's my new little thing now. So I won't word vomit over it on this, but that's where I've been spending a lot of my time at the moment. What about you?
Nice. What was even my question? Oh yeah, right.
What have you been up to? What have you been doing?
Man, I have been up to a lot of training. Also, it has been a minute. So hearing the question back, I'm trying to think over the past ages. Straight away, training. Yep, a lot of that. That's been the majority of it. Outside of that, a lot of other things going on, a lot of new changes, over this last few months, a lot of crazy things. I wouldn't say crazy, just a lot of things going on that have all been good. What else? I think another little spurt of growth is what has occurred. Me right now is not me maybe like 6-7 weeks ago, even when I chatted to you, but I feel pretty comfortable and happy and actually excited with where I'm at right now. And it's only because of the uncomfortable situation of the last few months. So once again, here we are. But yeah, I'm feeling pretty happy, pretty happy, pretty focused. I have a fight also April 9 coming up. That will be the pro debut on Hex.
Oh yeah, no shit, same day.
Same day.
Far out.
Crazy.
That'd be good. Is that in Melbourne?
That will be at the Pavilion in Melbourne.
Yeah. So who's running Hex now?
I'm not too sure the exact people, but I know that the show is up and running again, and they're aiming for it. They just put out their poster, Hex 21. There's gonna be some sort of I have an opponent, a name locked in. Yeah. But they'll post that later on. So I'm happy about that. What else? We've got our own business venture, which we're still working on ourselves. We'll probably share a little bit of that in the future.
Yeah.
I've been pretty spot on. I'm happy with where things are at right now.
Good. I was thinking, I think I said it to you yesterday anyway. It was probably more of like a self-reminder. But I just went for this big ass walk. And as I was walking home, I don't even know why. I have no idea why. I couldn't pinpoint on anything. But I just felt like real, I don't know, I was just in touch with everything. I was pretty present, walking, looking around, trying to look up more. And I just felt like real sad out of nowhere. And I was like, fuck, why do I feel like this? And then as I'm walking, I was just like, fuck, why do I feel a little bit alienated, a little bit sad. And I was like, damn, why is that? And then I was just thinking over the last, don't even know how long, few months, it's been ages of just one thing after the other. One thing goes wrong, the next thing goes wrong. You're like, fuck. And then I was just thinking, damn, when does this end? And then I thought I've said this multiple times. I always say it, like I've never wanted a very comfortable life. I don't want it to be comfortable because I want to always be pushed and challenged, and I want things to be a bit difficult so I can have some context for later on. Do you know what I mean? I don't want to have a breakdown because I fucking don't have a car. Do you know what I mean? I don't want that to be if that's ever going to be a problem, I've done that 1,000 times already. It's not going to faze me. So I like that things happen because it gives me some thick skin, really. But then at the end of the day, I was watching this old guy train, and he's in his 50s, and he's fit. He does everything right. Everything's going well for him. And I just thought, he's a guy that's, you can just look into his eyes and you're like, you know that you grew up and had a harder life, and you are the way that you are now. Like, things are good now because you've had this. But then I thought, man, this guy's still pushing too hard. Like, you're pushing past your limits. And it's almost like it's become a habit where I'm trying to say that if you think that and you want things to be hard, people get into a habit of things. So like, you think that you get into the habit of things always being hard and you having a hard life, and that never ends. That is a constant cycle for as long as you have that mindset. I think that you got to reevaluate, and me personally, I'm talking myself, to reevaluate that things won't always be hard and the weight of the world won't always be this heavy. We only have to bear that burden for so long until it becomes light, and we've deserved that rest, or that, like, we've climbed to the peak finally, and you get to enjoy the view. You don't always have to be climbing up that mountain, if that makes sense. And I was thinking, because I was watching this guy train, I'm like, man, you've done it already. Like, you don't have to keep doing this. You don't have to keep pushing and pushing past an edge, because at a certain point, you being in your 50s, you're going to break yourself now, if that makes sense. And I guess when I was walking, I was just thinking back on that, and then I was thinking about myself, and I was like, mate, you've got to give yourself a bit of a pat on the back, because, I mean, I'm not going to share my life story today, but maybe one time I will. But I was just thinking back, like, pat on the back to myself. You know what I mean? Like, things have been hard, and here I am. I'm still going. I'm still getting through it, and I'm still here. You know what I mean? And I was just thinking that, yeah, fuck, you are thick because of this. You've got thicker skin now. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't have to be thicker. Do you know what I mean? You don't always have to keep doing this. Like, you can relax a bit and realize that you're good. You know what I mean? Like, instead of that pressure, always like, nah, not enough, keep going. Has to be harder now. You're getting a bit comfortable. No, it has to go. You have to be uncomfortable again. I think that I haven't really taken the time to stop and smell the roses for a bit. And I was thinking
That's
about
the one. That's the word, man. I think whenever it was that we started on this journey of whatever it is that the journey that we're on, we realized along the way pretty quickly that, okay, discomfort equals growth, right? And then you start to seek it out a little bit, and then you seek it out more and more, and then just general life anyway will happen, and there's some uncomfortable situations, and you know you're going to grow through them. But like you said, we have to definitely take time to stop and smell the roses, and just our own wellness. I think we can definitely run through it and sometimes be blinded or oblivious to self-care, but not necessarily self-care. We can be oblivious to the necessity of self-care in this journey, because it's going to help us to be much better and to operate better. At the same time, man, we need to be the hardest worker, because what we want is pretty spectacular, and spectacular doesn't come easy. And I'm learning that as well myself through things and seeing how other people operate, and just learning the value of hard work. And it has to be, a little bit disgusting. Unfortunately, can't escape it. It has to be some pretty difficult, hard work that needs to be put in, a lot of it. But we can sometimes in that process be blinded by the necessity of the self-care. We need to. That's why it was good that we both mentioned when we were texting that mindfulness is a must. And there's a big mindfulness surge recently, or maybe I've just noticed it recently in the past few years, but I'm glad for it, because I know how beneficial it is to me and to yourself. And I also know that it's one of the ways that we can maintain. It's like a maintenance thing as well, not just to help you operate better, but to maintain, a good state. Man, it's crazy, because even the walking thing that you're saying, that was me this morning. I was walking, like I said before the podcast, I stopped along the way on the park. After that 20-30 minute session in the outdoor area, as I'm walking back to this place, there's this apartment, right? It was like a walking meditation. I was actually very in the present moment. I felt it. I really did feel it. And I was like, damn, this is a great place to be, you know?
Yeah.
This is a pretty solid place to be. And yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. Hard work is necessary, and we can't cheat ourselves of it. We can't even lie to ourselves about it. We have to work pretty hard, pretty damn hard. But it's a double-edged sword. It really is. It really is a double-edged sword, because we know we have to work so incredibly hard, harder than everyone. But we also know that we need to take time. People say it takes confidence in sport. I've heard it takes confidence to take a day off. I think there's a better way to say it, or a different way to say it, but the same intention. Not confidence, but you're actually going to be better off in the pursuit by employing some self-care, by enjoying the moment, stopping and smelling the roses at different times. Necessary.
100. This just came to mind just as you said that. But like I said, I'm really into investing at the moment, and I found myself like a little network of high performing investors throughout Australia. And one of them was saying yesterday, it was Saturday, and a lot of people do some research on the weekend. But honestly, most of them just take the weekend off, and they're like, well, on a Friday, everyone's like, just enjoy yourself, whatever, hair down, talk about stocks on Monday. We'll be back. Do you know what I mean? Just take the weekend off. There was this one guy that was doing a heap of research on a Saturday, and he's posting about it, whatever, all these articles and that. And this guy goes, love your work. Just kidding. Good luck. And I lost it, because he was just saying like, mate, you're going to blow yourself up and you don't even realize, because you can't always be like that. And don't get me wrong, it's great to do some extra work. This is everything I'm saying now. It's great to do some extra work on something, get a bit of a head start, and have give yourself more of a chance of succeeding in what you're doing. But at the same time, if you don't have that time off, you're going to blow up. You'll blow up, you'll hit a wall, and now you're going to scale yourself back a month. And sort of hit you in the face like that.
You will. Man, it's especially I think, especially in that world of investing or finance or business or something high pace, that's when things like relaxing, meditating, going for a walk, spending some time in nature, taking the mind off of your pursuit or out of that mess. Sometimes in those kind of things, the times that I've looked at, in the little dabbles that I've made into investing, or looking at certain companies that people are saying, wow, this might do really well. It's almost like you're throwing your own mind into something pretty chaotic, and if your mind spends a lot of time like that, you just become a chaotic and erratic person, and it'll filter out into other areas. And I'm saying this because I felt myself actually, I felt my mind becoming more and more erratic after those sessions, and I was meditating to counter it. And I was like, wow, this is something that really is going to require a lot of, just like how if you're training really hard with your body, you need to do some contrast therapy. Okay, the recovery boots, hop in the sauna, get a massage. You need to eat right, do all these other solid basic things so that your body can take what's happening. Otherwise, it'll just slowly break down. And the same with the mind. A pursuit like that takes a lot of mental effort. And it also takes a lot of interaction with technology. And I think both of those two things can make my mind very muddy very quickly. So yeah, that bloke needs to take some time. Or maybe he's actually taking some time, and Saturday's his day, he's got a different day off. But man, on a Sunday, take some time. I'm really glad this Sunday that I didn't have much on, because I'm so glad with how I feel right at this moment. I'm so damn glad, because it's heavy, bro. It's heavy just doing everything. Everyone's got shit to do, and everyone's going through something. Everyone's trying to achieve something or just live in general. Man, we got to take some time to chill. Yep, we need to.
100%. Yeah, it's just as simple as that. And I was thinking as well that this is actually really common And a lot of people sort of either get this or not. And I was thinking that, especially with you and we sort of come from a bit of a background that's not very pleasant in some ways. And it sort of puts a bit of pressure on, for whatever reason that I think this way, it's almost like a burden. I think we were talking about this with Reese Schleicher. We did actually, yeah. All three of us were saying that we come from a family where it's almost, and I say almost, dependent for us to be able to make something. Because I know for me, no one in my family ever did, I love them, but they didn't do anything productive, really. And it's almost like, like you because you're aware of it and you can do it and you have the potential to do it, and for whatever reason things sort of worked in this way, you almost have to do it now. Because if you don't, then you wasted the only shot that you had, that any of us had. And it's like, okay, I like that. And at the same time, it gets heavy. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, you got to go two ways about it. You know what I mean? Like you can either go absolutely nuts and sort of fuck off everything else and go after it. And you'll get lost if you do that. You see that a lot of times with especially older people. And it's like, yeah, fair enough. You know how they're like, yeah, I had it hard and here I am and I'm so successful because of it. It's like, well, okay, what measure of success are we talking? Did you do really well in business and your family's still fucked? Like, is that success still? Do you know what I mean? I think that there has to be some sort of, like, especially in this new age world, it's a bit different. It's not like get to the top of whatever it is in your field and that's enough. I think it's almost like everyone understands humility now, and we understand how to be humble, and we recognize that and we appreciate that more, because no one wants to see that guy that's just fucking bragging about it. Do you know what I mean? Like, you haven't really made it yet. You're still, because you're bragging, you're actually insecure and you haven't made anything really. Do you know what I mean? Like, you've just masked it with something else. So I think that the best measure is to do both. You know what I mean? To make it in whatever it is that you were trying to make it, and also be humble and have enough humility to still be able to relate with people. Do you know what I mean? Like, whether it's your family or if it's your friends, like, I'm not talking just leaving behind. I'm saying, and sometimes that is necessary, but I'm just saying more like, I don't know, like, don't forget where you did come from. You know what I mean? Like, you're still a product of that environment, whether or not you tried to get away from it or not, that it's still a part of you.
It's again, another double-edged sword, but it's the one that you need to have in your hand, because you need it. You don't ever feel too special. Don't feel too special. 100%, there's no difference between any person pursuing anything at all in the world. And I think what you're saying, to me, that was a connection that I drew. I think a lot of people that we see, pursuing certain things that are pretty fantastic and pretty great, can sometimes lose sight of actually who they are, and think that maybe a different pursuit is lesser or more valuable. You can never ever believe that. Each person's journey, each person's pursuit is valuable to this world, to this life. And that's why I think, that humbleness, that humility, if you have that understanding, humility and humbleness, I think, will fall from that.
Yeah, 100%. It's really about who you become in it. That's what we're after. We just want to become that person.
When you say your measure of success, that's another great point, because a lot of these people, for example, I ran into somebody and I found out this guy had an agency. So I go, okay, this is someone who I will share the fact that I also have an agency with Josh, to get some information and have some advice, because, we're growing and it'll be a good thing to do. And I wouldn't say I didn't regret it, but I did regret it actually at the time. Man, this guy did not stop aerating about things that showed me where his value lied. And I don't know the guy well enough to make any real conclusions, but I do not want to be him at all. We're talking about, let's say, some of the financial goals that we've set for the agency, okay? And what it would require in terms of clients and whatnot. Now, he's like, mate, nah, you're going to need maybe 10, 20 times that. And I'm like, why? He's like, oh, look, okay. Everything was based around income to this person, and that maximum income was the goal. And I could see that there was no satisfaction. Let's just throw random numbers out there. Let's say it was like, okay, you're going to make, I want to be making $5 a week, right? And he's like, yeah, good, but you need to be aiming for at least $20, $25 a week. Otherwise, you can't be successful in life. He's like, at a minimum, you need to be putting away this much in saving. Let's say 10, 20 in saving. And I shit you not, this is at a cafe in St. Kilda. As we're talking, an AMG GL, which car was it? The new Mercedes car that looks a bit like a coupe, okay, the green one. I think the AMG, actually, I'll fuck it up. We both
Yeah, anyway.
He drives past it, and it's parked right in front of us at a red light. And he goes, mate, he's like, I'll be so happy when I have that. And I'm like, and this is in the middle of his air raid about how those aren't good financial goals. You need to be aiming higher, financial goals and whatnot. And at that moment, I said, I'm not allowing anything else he says to enter my head. And I just quickly ended the conversation, and I had to move on. And he noticed it. And the reason is, what's your measure of success? Also, what's your measure of freedom? Like, for example, our financial goals are goals that will allow us to live a life that we are happy with. And that's something we've talked about individually, and we've set what those requirements are. And of course, whatever that number is, you can always aim to double it, to triple it, to quadruple it. But then it means that your happiness is being derived from the amount, which isn't where we're at, which is not where we're at. So there you go. Where's your happiness? What's your measure of success? For me, it would be, having the time, first of all, making progress in my pursuits, having the time to spend with loved ones and being a good person, whatever other values, that we've set. Yeah. Those are the measures of success. A lot of people may work hard enough to get that mad car and have enough money to put 10 grand a week away in savings, but they're never going to be happy, because if that's the mindset, man, you can put 15 grand a week away in savings. You put 20 grand a week in savings. You're going to aim for all that, and maybe you'll look back and think, okay, I've done that, but then you can look elsewhere, personal life. How happy are you on your own? Where's your family at? Friendships, community circle. There's a lot of things, and of course, each person is individual, but yeah, it's an interesting one.
That is that what you just said there. I don't think anyone might have heard that, but how happy are you when you're alone? Oh.
Yeah.
I think honestly, that thought alone might even scare people. To me, that is the biggest measure of success possible. How happy are you when you're alone?
Yeah.
Shit. Like, who even likes this? How many people listening right now, do you like to spend time alone? Are you comfortable to do that? Do you know what I mean? Like, I hope that you are. And honestly, I hope that most people just answered yes to that. But if you're not, to me personally, it could be a different view, but I think that is the most area that needs work, because you're going to spend most of your life alone, to be fair. Do you know what I mean? Like, in your own thoughts, that's honestly about 80% of your life is how are your thoughts in your own head? And if they're not good, then that's something you need to work on. And I think that's what we're trying to say here. That I said this the other day when we went to the accounting meeting, or when I went to the accounting meeting, and I was laying down this idea and the goals we want to set. And he's like, I like this model. And he's like, first, do you know what he asked me actually? He's like, what are you chasing? Are you chasing a number or a lifestyle? And I said straight away, I'm like, a lifestyle. And he's like, all right, good. And I'm like, mate, no one's ever asked me that. Like, no one's ever even thought.
That's pretty spot on for an accountant to ask.
100%. Because usually you'd expect it's, just numbers we're talking. But he said that, and I was like, yes, that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm trying to chase a lifestyle. I've always been trying to chase this lifestyle. And I think this probably stems when 2014, when we first read 4 Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss. And he said that. He said, I remember this chapter when he was talking about goal setting, and he was saying, like, lifestyle design he was talking about. And he was saying, like, what would be your most the most crazy dream you could ever think about. And people be like, oh, live in Bali or whatever it is, live in whatever country and just surf and do this. And then he's like, all right, well, how much would that cost to do? And then you're like, oh, I don't know. So then obviously you look it up. How much is a nice rent in Bali somewhere? And for a surfboard and surfing lessons and food and your living expenses, how much does that cost for, let's say, a year? You want to do it for a year. You work it out and it's cheaper than where you are right now. Let's say your rent somehow is $400 a week, paying $1,600 a month in rent plus food and bills. Let's just call it $2.5 grand. Turns out it's actually only $1,200 a month in Bali. So what's your excuse? Do you know what I mean? And it's like that big dream that you had, you can actually go and do that. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't have, you don't have to earn $300,000 a year, $500,000 a year. So what's the point of chasing that? And
It's a good exercise.
Yeah, 100%. And that's why we set this goal. It's just enough to do what we want to do. And this is no longer an issue. And now you get room for that. I think we said this with Troy as well. And Troy was saying that when you have an idea, if you don't A, write it down, or B, actualize it, you don't have any room for new ideas. And this is like, I think that once you start getting those first ideas ticked off, you get room for a new one and it becomes more lucrative, more creative, and you'll find a way to do it. Like flexing that muscle, you actually get better at doing it and completing it. And that's why I was thinking, like, that article that came out with Jeff Bezos, how he built, Joe Rogan was talking about it, how he bought a mountain, carved out a cave and put a big grandfather clock in there.
I've heard about this.
But it's like, well, you're a billionaire, so why not? And that might have been just a silly idea he had in his head. Like, that would be cool to have a little lair inside a mountain. And he did it. Do you know what I mean? And like, to me, that's exactly what it's about. Just getting those ideas out there, putting them out there in the world, because then I could think about that and I could watch it and I could be like, damn, he did that. Well, I could do it too. Like, you did it. I could probably do it, or I could do something even crazier. And it gives someone permission to think more crazy. Do you know what I mean? And it's not crazy anymore because you can do it. Like Elon Musk is the best example. And we can go on about who's setting good examples. But the point is that if you don't give yourself a chance to tick off these creative ideas, then you're always going to have whatever your baseline is right now. And it's not going to get anything more than that until you get rid of them or until you actualize them.
Damn. Crazy, bro.
Yeah.
Ridiculous. It's ridiculous, man. What a journey it is that we've been on, right? Damn. When you mentioned that book, The 4 Hour Work Week, I was just thinking back to that flight. And I was like, wow, that was a fair minute ago. That was a fair while ago.
Yeah, dude. That's like nearly 7 years ago now. That's fucking insane.
Crazy. And here we are. Man.
Wait, no, sorry, it's 4 years ago, my bad. But yeah, still 4 years, far out.
Here we go again. There was a point in my head as you were talking that I'm like, okay, let me hold on to this because I want to bring it up. And it's gone now. So we'll just have to let it come back on its own time.
Whenever it comes, just chime in. But I remember that. I remember being on that flight and it was the first ever self-help, self-improvement book I ever read. It's the first time I ever heard about Tim Ferriss. And it was because you bought it at a Collins bookstore in the airport or whatever, WH Smith or whatever it is. And I was like, all right, I'll read it. We're on a 14-hour flight back home. Started reading it, and like, if there ever was such thing as a spark like happening right there, that was it. That honestly was one of those pivotal moments that I think back on, and I'm like, literally from that second forward, I just wasn't the same. I honestly wasn't the same, because it was almost like I had this little inkling inside of me always that I just wondered, is this normal? Like, is it normal to think a bit against the grain and to want something a bit more than what we're doing? And then to see it in a book that someone's doing it and here's how to do it, here's a blueprint how you can do it. I was like, mate, I'll never ever accept anything else. And I fucking still remember it. And thank you, Tim Ferriss, for that.
But also it takes courage to pursue something. And I think it takes even more courage to stick to it. Or you could say drive or ambition or whatever it is, but there's something really strong that you need, or maybe it's a mix of all, to stick to that unique path of creating something. Because I think everyone will eventually come across, let's say someone that listens to this, a moment or a piece of information that could change perspective, okay? It could have a paradigm shift. And then to decide, okay, this is possible for me, let me give it a shot. And then to run into the regular setbacks and realizing it's not easy and all that, to continue to pursue that and not turn the other way, because at so many different intervals or at different junctions, there's a different path ahead, which is not a lesser of lesser value or whatnot, but does look and that does look pretty easy, does look a little simpler, that we could always go down, right? But I think sticking to the guns is continuing to feed that fire. If that's the spark that you mentioned, then feeding that fire, even when it starts to wear down, or some sort of analogy about the wind blowing onto it. I know you're waiting for the analogy.
Yeah.
But whenever it gets tested, to keep feeding it, to let that keep burning, man, that takes a lot of fuel, okay? A lot of fuel. It's crazy. It's a crazy thing we're on, man. Last few months, let me see, what were some crazy things that I went through? A lot. I think something that would help, something that helps you to achieve anything great or achieve what you want in general, and if you set something ambitious, is perseverance, of course, and a lot of what you could say, people would say luck or circumstance, one and the same, but there's a lot of self-analysis required. And then there are a lot of things that you would think are falling into your lap. You know, when something great happens and you go, wow, okay, this is positive, this is helping me move forward in this direction, cool. But also the bad or the difficult scenarios, those are also the gems. That's also a lucky thing, because it's only from those things that you can really grow and make an impact. Like, I keep coming back to how I feel at the moment, how I've been feeling in the past week or few weeks. I've seen it build up in a bit of a slow manner, right? But I always know when, you know, we talk about the pendulum, I always know when it starts to swing for whatever reason. I can just see certain things happening. And it's happened enough times now that when it starts to swing across to the other side, I understand that, okay, it's going to take some time to build up to like a very high performing, content and happy place, which is a great place to be. You know, you're doing a lot of things really well that you're happy with. It's going to take time to build up to those things. And it's also going to take time to build up in the other direction.
Which way is it swinging for you now?
It's going in that fantastic, like, spot on place, but only because of where it was previously, right?
Yeah, true. 100%.
That's just how it is. Look, for example, if you want to look, if we point out the identifiable things, such as having the right habits in place, having the things in place that make you feel good and happy, having your progress, feeling progress, let's say even having your place organized, even those things will take time to build up. But it's also about going within a little bit. Going within. So I feel you can get lost in the pursuit a lot of the time and refuse to do that or refrain from doing that. But I certainly did. But it's only the difficulties which kind of forced me to do that. And that's why I feel I'm in a great place. I'm heading in a direction that's pretty solid. So yeah, crazy. And I have to actually point out, it was actually a friend of mine, Emre, which is funny. One of the high schools I went to was Rosehill in Essendon. And this guy was in that school, but we were never mates. We were complete different circles, right? I don't know how, somehow I end up teaching this guy boxing, you know, like however many years later, like 10 years later. And it's one of those sessions with a client that's, every time I have a session with him, for whatever reason, we have great conversation about it's not basic conversation, right? Similar to ourselves. And he put something up on his story. I actually should share it about going within and healing wounds, which is one that's well known, but also just going within and being really honest about what's going on. But also how only once you've done that, or once you actually really try and engage in that, is when there's benefits shown on the outer. I guess you could appear a bit more solid or whatnot, and people may be wondering for whatever reason, but there's a lot of things that we don't actually, there's a lot of things that we don't think about. You know how I feel we go through phases with this as well though, and it's necessary to go through phases because you can't spend your whole life in one area of focus. But either way, I'm glad that was another phase that recently happened. It's crazy. I remember the point that ADHD is kicked in. I remember the point from before.
Yeah. What is that?
What was it? Do I? I do. Okay. So talking about being happy on your own. I know that when things were really uncomfortable for me, that was when I was I would not be super happy on my own. Or even when I thought that I would not be focused. I would not be very clear. I would have some sort of feeling inside, and that wasn't the best. But then as soon as things are on the other foot, and also when you are not happy on your own, you can also see it because you'll be constantly seeking that in other people by wanting to spend time with other people, feelings of missing out. At every opportunity to socialize, perhaps you'll be there. Whereas right now, I really am against, not in a bad way, but I want to spend a lot of time on my own because I got a lot of things to do. And when I don't have those things to do, I want to just relax on my own. I want to just chill on my own. I want to go to the park like I did this morning, just kick back and relax. So that was the point from earlier. But yeah, I'm glad we touched back on it, because if you're not happy on your own, and maybe happiness isn't the right word, if you're not comfortable on your own, it's okay, because that's how it is sometimes. But when you realize it, it's a good trigger to do some work on yourself. One of the things that I did was, I know that I'm very settled, comfortable, happy. I just feel overall better. It's not even about happy, it's just a feeling, you know. Sometimes you're not feeling that good. Sometimes you're feeling pretty good. I know when I'm going out like into nature, botanical gardens or a park or whatever, and literally just sitting there on my own, just chilling, relaxing. I might put some music on, then I'll take them off, and then I'll just meditate for a bit. Or I could even just do my regular things that I would normally do indoors. I'll do them outdoors. Man, it makes a big impact. So, yeah.
100%. I was just thinking just then, I just realized listening that I think we're both, just for lack of a better word, but both introverted in the fact that we like to spend time alone and it's comfortable for us to do that. And then I was thinking, well, what if someone listening is an extrovert and they're actually happier when they're socializing with people and around people, and the opposite effect for them is that they're spending a lot of alone time. And well, it still comes, I was just going to say, you are going to do the opposite, right, of whatever is natural for you. So if you're an extrovert and you're spending a lot of alone time, I think the measure of success or happiness is still the same. It's still the exact same, whether you're introverted or extroverted. It just comes down to how comfortable are you when you're alone, in both senses. If an introvert is uncomfortable being alone, then there's a problem. If an extrovert is uncomfortable being alone, there's a problem. You know what I mean? It's always going to be about, it's always you at the end of the day, and everything else around you is usually going to reflect on how you are internally. You're like a mirror. It's almost looking back at you. You see the world in a dark place, then a dark place is going to stare at you. You know what I mean? So I think that, and I'm not going to give you advice or how to be more happier alone, because that's a constant, never-ending battle personally. So sometimes it's to go see professional help, sometimes to talk to people, involve yourself in those things. Someone said to me the other day, and I'm probably going to have to go see someone to understand this more, but either one, look back on past traumas, if any, and two, to understand your trigger points, both negative and positive. And this is something that I'm not good at yet, but to understand your trigger points, like what ticks you off in a certain way, like why are you like what happens to make you feel this way? Do you know what I mean? And try to identify that, and maybe write it down or just take note of that somehow. Like, so you're feeling happy right now? Okay, well, what happened? Why are you feeling happy? Okay, that's a good thing. So do more of that. And if it's the opposite, you're feeling sad, then why? What happened? Can you identify it? And a lot of the times, you probably can't. I think that happens a lot with me. Out of nowhere, I'll feel it. And I'm like, well, why do I feel like that? And it's probably because you've overlooked something or neglected something. And that's usually the way it happens. But even just start taking note of those trigger points, what makes you feel a certain way, and either avoid or do more of.
Man, that is spot on, because when I started, probably I would say it was about 4 weeks ago that a lot of that I started monitoring myself more. Like I had stopped monitoring myself. I started being a little bit more aware of myself and monitoring myself in situations. And those trigger points that you mentioned, that's something that actually came up to me, because I would realize that with some of the company that I would keep, I would be in certain situations. Let's say we're just kicking back somewhere. Someone could say something to me, or not even to me. Someone could say something, or some sort of behavior would occur around me, and that would be a behavior that I would not feel. I wouldn't feel good. I wouldn't feel good, or I'd feel angry, or I'd instantly put up some sort of wall or whatever it was, even if I don't show it on the outside. But I'm like, wow, this is interesting. I go, this is weird. Someone could say something to me, not even meaning anything bad or whatnot, and I could react to it in a certain way. And then I started taking note of it. And then, look, one of the things that helped me was just to go back to one of the fundamentals, which was don't take things personally. And that's helped me massively in just moving about day to day. But yeah, everyone will have those trigger points. That's a good way, I guess. I'm trying to say that's a good way to find what some of yours may be. Maybe this isn't a scenario that you're familiar with, but if you're in an environment, a social setting, or whatever scenario or anything, and you realize that something has happened that just made you on guard, on edge, or be like whatever type of way, maybe that's a good time to take a note of that. And then that's for you to do. You might go deeper and try and see where that is tied to and what it is tied to, and then try and maybe heal that or fix that or move on from it, or at least just acknowledge it. But an example I'll give is, I'll be like, man, is this guy taking the piss? And not even in that way, in a bit of a, I guess, for lack of a better word, in a deeper way. I feel a little bit attacked or on guard or whatever. I'll just feel like something's going on, right? Whereas this person maybe doesn't even mean anything, or just is, if he is, like whatever, it's just a thing. But I'll see myself for sure put up some sort of it'll be a change of state, even if I keep the same pace or whatever, I change of state and I start monitoring situation. Am I getting set up here? Are these cunts fucking taking the piss out of me behind scene, or you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's something that straight away needs to be noted down. That's something that you'd benefit from noting down and looking into a little bit more, right? Yeah. And then to go back to spending time on your own, I just pulled up the matrix that we'll share this as well. I put it up on a different account. It's in terms of being happy in relationships, it comes down to 3 things that they've identified: company you keep, company you give, and time without company. And those 3 things are pretty spot on, and it's worth mentioning. But definitely the time without company is where you'll notice how comfortable you are in that space. And it's actually a funny thing is that as you get more and more solid on your own, and as you get more and more comfortable with yourself, and it takes time, it definitely takes time. Not everything is going to it's not like you're having a shit time and you're like, oh, I want to have a good time. Tomorrow, everything is going to be spot on. I'm going to be waking up at this time. I'm going to be having my fucking supplements. I'm going to be eating right. I'm going to be doing no, it's a brick by brick thing. Okay, it's a slow climb, but climb it long enough and you'll notice you're in a good spot. And when you get to that good spot, you will probably be more comfortable on your own and therefore want to spend a bit more time on your own so that you can continue to do things that make you happy. But that's when a lot of people want to hang out with you. And that's just an interesting point. But time without company is very important. The company you keep, so the people that you allow yourself to spend time around, and also the company you give, where you're giving a little bit more of yourself in those scenarios. Those are all super, super important. It's actually in this matrix, it's got those listed as foundational, and the foundational is the 80%. Okay, the overall category I'm referring to here is called relationships. And it says they use the 80-20 principle. They say 80% of relationships will be based on this, okay? Company you give, company you keep, time with that company. And then the 20%, the advanced, is communication training, studying human behavior sciences, attachment theory education, all sorts of other things you could add on that's extracurricular. But the foundational are those three things. And that's why it's such a great matrix, because in the other three areas, mind care, body care, and environment, they've also got that same, they follow that same structure. They got things that are foundational, only 3 dot points that are foundational, that are the 80%, the bulk of what will impact that area. And then they've got the 20%, which is extracurricular. Okay, this is advanced. This is a little bit more advanced only in the way that this is the pillar. This is how you go further.
Yeah.
Good.
That's sick. That is so cool. Some charts you look at and you're like, I would see this all the time, like something pop up on Instagram and then you just sort of flick past it because it's whatever. But yeah, I think it's more when either it related to you in some way because you've probably gone through it now, or even if you just were more present and had a look at it, you'd be like, holy shit, it's this simple. It's just 4 pillars of my life. Like it's sometimes, maybe it's scary for people to look at that your life can be broken down into four little circles, 4 little, your whole life right here. But I think it's sort of what we need just to keep it as simple as possible. Otherwise you get lost in complexity.
It's good because I think anyone that looks at this and spends about 5 minutes at least thinking about it, it'll highlight some important things. And for people that can very easily look to so many extracurricular things, it really knuckles down on the fundamentals here, on the foundational things. For mind care, the foundational is, I'll leave it for people to go over and look at. There's plenty. I could talk about this chart, but you could just find it. It's on Neurohacker Collective. Okay, Neurohacker Collective has put out a PDF, and I just screenshotted it from there. So it's a fantastic one. But I will go real quick one. So body care. You got body care, right? The foundational there, the 3 dot points, that's the 80%, is sleep, nutrition, movement. Advanced, you could go all day on advanced supplementation, wellness therapies, and then you can look to extracurricular things, floating, cryotherapy, whatever else, better oxygen, maybe oxygen therapy. But the foundational are pretty core. And that's the same thing with with all the 4 areas. It's pretty foundational. Bro.
So this is like the pillars of your life that we're talking about. So what you got body care, and you just explain them, mind care, environment, and
relationships.
Yeah.
And it's a good way to, if you were to look at this, okay, put yourself in the center. In the center, they've got love of life, but you can put yourself in the center. Then you can just look to each of the areas and see and have your own reflection on where you're at with those areas.
That's actually reminds me, if anyone has been to a psychologist, this is pretty much what they do when they do, I can't remember what it's called, but it's like something cognitive therapy. You'll know what I'm talking about if you've been. And they basically put you on, they do exactly that, but they did it for me a little bit differently, but it was the same sort of thing. And it was looking at relationship, like your social life, your family life, your personal thoughts, and then you have your leisures and your business life or whatever, your professional life. And they just basically tell you to put in a little X it has like I don't know what the diagram's called, but it has the inner circle and then outer circles.
Mm-hmm.
And it was basically a scale of 1 to 10, really, and just sort of getting you to analyze where you think you're at the moment and where you would like to be. And it was saying exactly that, like, are you looking after your social life? Are you lacking? Are you looking after where are you spending most of your time? And then you can actually sort of point out, it's just a way of self-reflecting, really. And you sort of they get you to point out what you're doing wrong or what you're doing right or what you're neglecting. And then they ask you, like, well, why are you neglecting that? And then you have to ask yourself, right, well, why am I not spending so much time with friends anymore? Is it something that you want to do? And then you'd be like, oh, yes or no. And then if it's a yes, well then, okay, well, it just looks like you've got to make more time for that. And maybe you're spending too much time here. And it's so simple, but it's something that, like, when you feel sad, let's say that you feel sad and you need to go to a psychologist to talk about it because you're not sure why, or you don't want to be sad anymore, obviously. And then you don't even think, we talked about this last time about first thoughts and second thoughts. And like a first thought could be, I'm so sad. And then you're like, well, what's the second thought is obviously, why are you sad? What are you sad about? And so many people don't even ask that second thought. And then obviously you have a third and a fourth after that. And basically that's all they do. I'm not talking it down. Again, I'm not a professional, but when you go see someone, that's basically what they're doing. They're just trying to get you to ask yourself those questions because you probably didn't. You probably didn't ask why you're sad or what happened. And it's basically as simple as that. And this is what this whole episode is about, really, is just techniques and different ways you can go about self-reflecting. I mean, it's such a
great tool.
Self-reflection,
self-evaluation, because sometimes you're the person, okay, you're the thing that's in the thick of it, whatever that it is for you at the time. You're in the middle of it, and it's very hard to identify issues, identify why things are the way they are. Having that outside input is valuable, but a great place to start, and definitely a great place to add at any time, is to use a tool like that, or definitely speak to someone. But you need to have some sort of way to evaluate the scenario, reflect on it. But yeah, bro, I will ask you this: out of your behaviors in the past few months, if you reflect on your past few months, what do you think? What are 2 things you'll do moving forward that will have a pretty good impact on your direction overall, however you take the question? But just trying to derive 2 things, 2 changes that you would make or that you will make, let's say from now till the end of March or moving forward, based on what the last 3-4 months have been like.
Okay. So that means I have to think about what's been happening, what I've been doing, how I've been feeling the last few months. And there's either things I want to do better or some things that haven't been good that I need to change. I would say I've definitely, if I was looking at that chart in my head, I would think that my social life is lacking. I'm not spending enough time there. And I realized that. I think I've been spending too much time alone, too much time with my own thoughts. And I like that 90% of the time, but I can definitely see that I'm doing it wrong there. I think you feel it, like just from little things that spark me up, where I'll be like, damn, I'm lonely right now, or I'm not having as much fun, or I've just been spending too much time with my own thoughts and it's just drowning. I think I've been doing that too much. So I definitely spend more time socially with friends. And the other one would be that I need to start doing already, is way more mindfulness, it has to be a staple. And it has been for so long, usually with yoga is the one that I like to do, but I see myself getting excited over things or too frantic over something where I know that I shouldn't be like that. I can get excited over things, but I can see myself just, you know how sometimes you get so caught up in a moment and then you get a little glimpse of being present and you're like, fucking calm down, or just stop for a second. I think I've been doing that too much. So 1, more social time, and 2, more present. I need to be more mindful of being in the present moment.
Nice. And okay, that there. I was actually going to ask them, but that's probably a better question. I was going to say, out of the things you're happy about, what will you continue?
Oh, cool.
And out of the things you're unhappy about, or what are out of the difficult moments you've endured or been through, what would you change? How would you prevent them? How would you, whatever? Those are questions. One, if things are good, happy, there's progress in an area, what will you do to continue to make that progress?
Yeah. Oh, okay.
And the opposite.
And the opposite, yeah. So just thinking about progress, which is something that we were talking about on the weekend. So obviously I'm really into investing at the moment, and to make more progress and be successful in that, I started a course. So I'm doing like a foundational course purely on micro caps, which is where my interest lies. ASX only. So Australian investing into micro cap stocks, just developing investment strategy and going through the whole foundations of how to value companies and good investments, and make sure I'm executing my strategy every time, not getting sucked into FOMO and all that sort of stuff. So just staying disciplined in there. So can continue to make success there by sticking to this course, going through it, and then implementing my strategy in all investments I make. And something that have been lacking that I need to fix, is that what you're saying?
No, just derive something from the progress and derive something from the uncomfort or the whatever mini failure or thing that went wrong or whatever moment was a bit on the other end of the spectrum, which would be the change you would make from that.
Honestly, probably I'd go back to that, just mindfulness. Honestly,
yeah.
I think
it's such a solid one.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I'm turning into Bobby in terms of, well, no, really, just with people that I consider a good friend, I'm really onto them in terms of, man, try to meditate a lot more. But it's hard because, you need to experience it. Not like there's anything crazy to experience, but for people that are not about meditating in terms of where they're currently at, they don't think that it's very valuable. It's very hard to make them see the value in it unless they've done it. But it's such a positive, such a necessary tool it's a tool that we need to equip ourselves with, because it makes the actual character much better. Like, just being able to observe yourself, then you can actually direct yourself. Otherwise, we're just moving blindfolded. I definitely realized that when I started to notice a little bit of the benefits from meditating early on, in terms of just being a little bit more aware, then you really realize how erratic you are and how you're not aware of your own movements. As weird as that may be that might sound, you're not aware of your own movements. You're just going from thing to thing. You're drawn by each moment, each desire, impulse. You just direct it. And then you'll end up in certain places, good or bad, and not even really know why or how. And that's important stuff to know for the future, for moving forward. But when you gain the skill set of being a little bit more aware of your own movements and your own behaviors, and just being a little bit more aware of what's going on in your head in each moment, then you can actually identify things to make some improvements, or you can notice, like you said, because you're someone that meditates consistently, even though you may not have meditated or have dropped on the practice, the benefits are there, and you would notice it. When you said you'd have one moment of you'd be present for a moment and you'd realize how unpresent you were most of the other times. Like, that's one of the benefits. Yeah.
And that's actually, just since you mentioned that about catching yourself, like being present for yourself for a second and realizing how unpresent you've been. We were saying this the other day about someone that I know has a bit of a problem with getting too excited in talking about themselves, and they don't realize when you're having a conversation with someone that person is just completely lost interest now, because they probably told you something and then you've just spewed out all this stuff about yourself instead of actually listening to what they just said. And I was saying to her, like, you've got a bit of a problem with that. I sent her a TikTok meme, just a little hint. And then she said that from that moment that I said it, that she started catching herself doing it. So she's like, I'm so unpresent a lot of the time, because that's what it is, really. You're just being unpresent. And then when you catch yourself, and it could be that you've seen, like I'm talking to you right now, and then you've told me something, and now I'm telling you some shit that you don't care about. Your eyes are going to dart off. You're going to be like, fuck, he's doing this again. Now she's like, oh shit, I'm looking at what they're doing and they're not even interested in what I'm saying. And you're like, well, there you go. Do you know what I mean? And that's just from a second of being present and realizing what you're doing. So I think, just giving an example, that's one way that you could do it, or one way that, like a real life example of how that happens.
Exactly. Like that person, okay, and that person has actually been me in the past. Let's say someone that does that or something similar, doesn't mean that they're doing anything bad. But if you haven't practiced the skill of monitoring yourself or being more aware of yourself subconsciously, which is what meditation is, then you won't be aware of those things and you won't be able to fix them. You may run into that, into the idea of that, and then make that adjustment. But if you're a little bit more present, okay, a little bit more aware of your own actions, which is so hard, because I know people that are against or not open to the idea of meditating. When I say aware of your own actions, we both know that they're probably thinking something else. But if you're not equipped with that, you won't be able to identify those things. But if you are, you'll notice it. You'll be like, wow, this is something that I do. This is something that I would like to fix. And you can make the adjustment.
100%. I was going to say the two people that I probably respect most and I look up to a lot is Troy, and our jits coach. We've had him on the podcast before, and Jimmy, which we haven't had him on, but we've talked about him heaps. And both of them practice some sort of mindfulness. Troy does yoga and Jimmy meditates. And it's like, and Jimmy was a good example, because he was that guy that he'd be listening to us talk about this now and he'd be like, shut up. Like, what are you talking about? This hippie shit, just shut up. Because he's always trying to do this or that, or he doesn't believe in it, or for whatever reason. And honestly, fair enough. But you can put whatever term on it. You can call it whatever you want. But it's as simple as that. It's just taking a second to yourself and just calming down for a bit, just chilling out, really, and just think about where you are right now. Simple as that. And they both say, and this is from two different walks of life, and both people that I respect highly, and they both say some sort of mindfulness is paramount. And that alone is paramount reason for me to do it. If they're saying it's a good thing, all right, fine. I respect you. I believe you. I'm going to do it. And it works. It does.
It just helps. It just helps you to operate better. Who doesn't want to operate better?
True. Yeah. Simple as that, really.
I think,
so have you ever gotten advice or a tip or whatever, and then you've ignored it and you've been like, what would have happened if I just listened? Do you know what I mean? Or sometimes you get advice where it's so simple, where you're like, yeah, I know. But if you actually did it, oh, fuck, man. If I did it every time I got good advice, then, man, I wouldn't have any issues. But then the problem becomes like, well, you get so many tips from all over the joint. Like, which one do you listen to? Which habit do you follow? And I know it's a lot.
Yeah. I think, man, actually a little while ago, I think in that first lockdown, I was thinking, when someone's in a bad slump, what can I do? What little bit of information would be valuable to anyone currently on the down part of the hill? And it's not as easy as just saying meditate or whatnot, blah, blah. I think what I ended up on that I'll probably stick to is do one thing. Just do one thing that is correct. Okay, we all know what's correct. For example, let's say you're in the midst of it and it's just shit house, right? You're just not having a good time for whatever reason, or you just notice yourself falling off and it's been a while and you just like, do one thing, whether that thing is pick that one thing up off the ground, say, okay, I'm going to pick this thing off the ground, I'm going to put it on the table where it needs to be. Bang. And that will lead to the next thing. As silly as it sounds, it works for a lot of people. It definitely works for a lot of people. And It's the brick by brick mentality. It's the snowball effect.
Yeah, I don't
The
know.
one thing, because when you're in the shit slump, you go, things are shit house anyway. There's no point even picking that single pen up. But you go, man, that would be the correct thing to do. Let me put it where it belongs. You do that subconsciously. You're acting in the correct manner. It will filter on into other things, and there'll be little setbacks, and then you might say, okay, maybe, damn, I'll get the dishes done, or whatever it is. Piece by piece, you build things back up. So to anyone having a rough one, do one thing. And if you're having a sick time, mad. And also, because that's how it is sometimes, right? You're having a mad time. But smell the roses. Smell the roses. Don't forget to do that. What about this one? We can end it on this one. What's next? What's next for you? And what's next for the podcast? We'll go over that one, number 2. But what's next for you?
For me, honestly, me and Rom have a goal to move up to Burleigh Heads. Said to 100 people now. That's most likely going to happen this year. I'm really hoping that we can do that July, August, move up to Burleigh Heads, still operate the agency the same way. Honestly, not sure if I would like to. I'm trying to turn on a bit of a new leaf here. I ran into someone the other day that I haven't seen for 5-6 years, and he knew me when I was wanting to join the army. And man, it just like, you know how you think about, damn, my life could have been so different. It gave me a good perspective to think like, am I doing everything that I wanted to do right now? And the answer for me is no at the moment. I'm not too content with a lot of the things I'm doing. I feel like that would be, not trying to run away from things, but I just want a fresh start with things in a more positive environment. So that's something we want to do. So that's our main focus. Move up to Burleigh. Honestly, not too sure if I'll fight up there or train there. I want to even try new things, try CrossFit or just try new shit, surf more. Honestly, I'm just trying to tickle each fancy as it comes. So that's the next thing we want to do. And in terms of the podcast, actually, we'll go with you first, then we'll go to the podcast.
What's next to me is I want to train like how I'm training right now. I'm on a good trajectory with improvement and progress in training. So I want to continue further down there. I want to continue to build myself. I'm currently doing a lot of things. I'm currently doing a few things often that I'm pretty happy with, that I think are contributing to me being and operating much better. So I want to continue down that one as well. I've actually really settled into this small little place, you know, that you've been here, but I would like to move out just somewhere with a little more space. But I'm in no rush at the moment. I'm pretty content with this spot right now. But that's a goal of mine. Still here in this area, around this area that I'm in, and everything else is with the agency and the podcast. But for sure, I definitely want to. What's been happening with the training, I'm very, very happy with. I feel like I'm always saying that, but there's always another level, right? There's always another level, and I'm starting to see another peak of another level, and it's just G'd me up to be like, fuck, because I forgot that there's so many other levels. Yeah. I'm seeing another peak to another level, and I'm like, man, let's fucking go. Let's go on this level, right? And then let's just keep pushing down that to the next level of whatever else is training-wise. There's so much with the training. And then myself as well. I'm really at a space where I'm just trying to really, really monitor myself, learn a little bit more about myself, try and go within, you know, that old phrase, but just keep doing the things I'm doing that are helping me to grow and improve as a person, you know, outside of fighting. Even though those are one and the same, I'm looking at them somewhat separately.
Yeah.
But yeah, that would be me. That's it. That the fighting, keep going down that level because things are getting good there. And let's build myself up into, the best version possible. Let's run with this momentum, with what's happening. Just things like sleep, things like journaling, things like reflecting, spending time in nature, things like not just meditating and following the breath. Now I'm actually trying to meditate and go within a little bit more, like meditating, but actually communicating with myself. That's that growth within myself and growth within this fight journey, and then everything else. The good thing is, one of the tools that we started creating is about the next question, which is, the agency and the podcast. They're so valuable to us. That's the only other area of my life that I'm really, really, really keen to put a lot of work into.
Yeah, 100%. So what's next for the podcast? Well, we want to start a new little series. We've been talking about this for a little while now. We want to start a little series, more of like a almost journaling and shorter episodes that we'll both do individually. So we'll probably release them on a Sunday or whatever. And just going to be more about, honestly, it will probably differ every time we do it, but I'd like to stick to the fact of doing like a short 15, 20 minutes, what I've been thinking about, just sort of, honestly, almost like a bit of a word vomit, but try and keep to one subject. So if I'm really into a subject, and then just sort of blurt it all out. This is how I think about it. This is what's happening about it. Get it out there so that I don't annoy everyone else. And if you're into that subject, here's a quick 15 minutes about it, and simple as that. And then, of course, more guests, keep it going, keep it flowing. And it's just a little reminder that this podcast is just so pure. We have no incentive to make money off it or to change it in any way. It's just as natural and as healthy as it can be. And that's the way it's going to be always.
It's just so valuable to us. And the fact that it can and has and will give a little bit of value to, who knows, anyone else potentially. It's just so spot on. So we've got there the little series that's going to start. We're going to get some guests happening again. I think we can aim to, let's commit to like 2 guests a month, and let's aim for, and I think we'll be able to do 1 a week, or at least 1 episode a week, even if it's a short one of us, or if it's one of us doing a little series. For sure, there'll be 1 piece of content recorded every week, but the pillar, okay, the 80% would just be that we get to a month in. Yep. And with the podcast, I think it's time for us slowly, we'll level up a little bit of the quality of the content in whatever way we can. But that will take a little bit. That'll be a little brainstorm session between us, but we'll try and improve the content a little bit. And we'll try and improve the content a little bit.
Yeah. In terms of production, are you talking?
I was going to just specify in terms of quality, but then I thought in all ways, maybe that's a wide circle. Could be communication, timing, whatever, but we'll improve the content.
Yeah, 100%. And it's good because it's a long-term thing anyway. No rush.
And that's the best part about this, is that we've already got the agency will go over in the future, but that's got its purpose. This is a whole nother purpose. And it's a refreshing one. We say it so many times. It's a refreshing one that it's not something that is necessarily a business to us, that we're like, we need to pump this out. We need to get solid quality of content so that we can get customers. No, this is valuable to us and it's valuable to others. And along the way, it'll grow and get better. That's how things happen. But
it's organic.
Yeah. Done. Little series. And whatever else, I already forgot it, but yeah.
All right, done. We'll wrap it up there.
Easy.
All right, brother.
Catch you, brother.